Shabbat Shalom, family. Oh man, the connection don't look too good. Hold on one second. Okay. Still not all that great, but we'll see if that changes. Okay, look like it's better. Okay. Boy, I didn't want to stop this thing and start all over. How are all of you today? We're going to do 2 end time books that go over prophecy that's going to happen towards the end, and that is the apocalypse of Abraham and the apocalypse of Elijah. Now, I was going to do just Abraham today, but it's kind of short. It's under an hour. So I threw in Elijah too, because that one's also short, but combined, it's close to an hour and a half. So we'll do that for today. Oh, I'm doing great, Brandy. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it's kind of windy here today. Yeah. All right, so we're going to give people a little more time to come in. I'm going to do the usual thing and play some music to give people some time to come in, and then we'll get started. Let's see. Okay. Let's try again. All right. Okay. I think there's some buffering going on. All right. Yeah, there's just a lot of buffering going on. Oh, come on. What are you doing here today? Let's let it sit here for a bit. All right. All right, come on. All right.
The Apocalypse of Abraham. The Apocalypse shall Abraham. Chapter 1.
All right. Let me just put this on the share. Let me share the screen. That. All right, can everybody see the screen? Give me a 1 if you can see the screen. All right, just give me a 1 if you can see the screen. No one can see the screen? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay. Come on. Just letting it move along a little more before we get started. I'm tired of this thing buffering today. I don't know what's going on. All right.
The Apocalypse of Abraham. The Apocalypse shall Abraham. Chapter 1. I was standing guard one day over the gods of my father Terah and my brother Nahor. While I was testing them to find out which god was really the strongest, and I was completing the services, I, Abraham, received my chance. My father Terah was sacrificing to his gods of wood, stone, gold, silver, copper, and of iron. And I entered their temple for their service, and found a god named Marumath, carved from stone, which had fallen at the feet of the iron god Nakin. At that point, my heart was perplexed, and I thought that I could not put it back in its place by myself because of its weight, since it was made of large stones. So I went and told my father, and he came in with me. When we both lifted it to put it in its place, its head fell off while I was holding it by its head. Then, when my father saw that the head of his god Marumath had fallen, he yelled at me, saying, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he told me to bring the axes and chisels from the house. So I brought them to him from the house. Then he cut another Marumath without a head from another stone. He then smashed the head of that had fallen off Marumath. He then crushed the rest of the broken Marumath. Chapter 2. He created 5 more gods and gave them to me. He ordered me to sell them outside on the road to town. I saddled my father's ass and loaded the gods on it and went on the highway to sell them. The merchants from Fandana of Syria were coming with their camels on their way to Egypt to buy cochineal from the Nile. And I questioned them and they answered me. I walked along with them and talked with them. Then one of their camels screamed, And the ass was frightened and fled, throwing off the gods. 3 of them were broken, and 2 remained intact. Then the Syrians saw that I had gods. They said to me, "Why did you not tell us that you had gods? We would have bought them before the ass heard the camels cry. You would have lost nothing." Then they said, "Give us the gods that remain, and we will give you a suitable price." I considered this and grieved. But they paid both for the smashed gods and the gods which remained. I had been worried how I would bring payment to my father. I threw the 3 broken gods into the water of the river Gur, which was in this place, and they sank deep into the river Gur and were not seen again. Chapter 3. As I was still walking on the road, my heart was disturbed and my mind was distracted. I thought, what is this deed of inequality my father is doing? Is it not he who is God, because his gods become into being through his sculpting, planning, and his skill, workmanship? They ought to honor my father because the gods are his work. What reward does my father receive for his works? Marumath fell and could not stand up in his own sanctuary. And could not I lift him up myself until my father came and we stood him up together? Even then we were not able to do it, and his head fell off of him. Then he put another stone on it, and from another god, which he, my father, had made without a head. The other 5 gods which God smashed when they fell from the ass could not save themselves. They did not harm the ass to avenge themselves because it smashed them, nor did their broken pieces come out of the river. And I thought to myself, if this is so, how can my father's god Marumath, which has the head of one stone and is made from another stone, save a man, or hear a man's prayer, or grant him any gift? Chapter 4. Thinking this way, I came to my father's house. I watered the ass and fed the ass with hay. I took out the silver and placed it in my father Terah's hand. And when he saw it, he was happy, and he said, "You are blessed, Abraham, by the God of my gods, since you have brought me the price for the gods, so that my labor was not empty." I answered and said to him, "Listen, Father Terah, in you is the blessing of the gods, because you are the God of them, since you created them, because their blessing is their hell and their power is empty. They did not help themselves, and how can they help you or bless me? I did well for you in this transaction, because through my good sense I brought you the silver for the broken gods." When he heard what I had to say, he became violently angry with me, since I had spoken harshly contrary to his gods. Chapter 5. Having thought about my father's anger, I left. And afterward, when I had left, he had called me, saying, "Abraham." I answered, "Here I am." He said, "Gather these wood chips. I was making gods from fur before you came. I will use the chips to cook food when I prepared my midday meal." Then, when I was picking up the wooden chips, I found a small god among them, which would fit in my left hand. On its forehead was written, "God Barisat." Then I put the chips on the fire in to prepare food for my father, and went out to ask him about the food. I put Barisat near the kindling for the fire. I spoke to him as if to threaten him. I said, "Barisat, watch that fire does not go out before I come back. If the fire goes out, blow on it so it flares up." I went out and said nothing of this to anyone. When I returned, I found Barisat fallen on his back. His feet were enveloped by fire and burned fiercely. When I saw it, I laughed and said to myself, "Barisat, truly you know how to light a fire and cook food." Then, while saying this in my laughter, I saw that he had burned up slowly with fire and turned to ashes. I carried the food to my father to eat. I gave him wine and milk, and he drank, and he enjoyed himself, and he thanked and spoke praise to Marumath his god. Then I said to him, "Father Terah, Do not bless Merimoth your God. Do not praise him. Instead, praise your God Barusat, because he loved you enough that he threw himself into the fire in order to cook your food. Then my father said to me, Where is he now? And I said, He has burned in the flames of the fire and become dust. And he said, Great is the power of Barusat. I will make another today, and tomorrow he will prepare my food. Chapter 6. When I, Abraham, heard these words from my father, I laughed to myself, and I groaned from the disgust and anger in my heart. I said, How can a piece of a body made help my father, Terah? How can he have enslaved his body to his soul and allowed his soul to be enslaved by a spirit when the spirit is stupid and ignorant? And I said, It is only proper to withstand this evil that I may compel my mind toward purity. I will lay my thoughts out before him clearly. I answered and said, Father Terah, no matter which of these gods you praise, your thoughts err. Don't you see that the gods of my brother Nahor, which stands in the holy sanctuary, are more worthy than yours? Look, Zalceus, my brother Nahor's god, is more worthy than your god Marumath, because he is made of gold, which is valued by man. And if Zalceus grows old with time, he will be remolded, whereas if Marumath deteriorates or is broken, he will not be renewed, because he is made of stone. What about Ioav, the other god who stands with Zalceus? He is also more worthy than the god Barasat. He, Iowa, is carved from wood and then forged from silver, because he too is made from something that is given with love and is valued by man according to their outward appearance. But Barasat, your god, is rooted in the earth. When he was large, it is a wonder, because he had branches and flowers and was worth praise when he was still not carved. But then you shaped him with an axe, and you created him as a god by your skill. Look, he has already dried up. His substance, fruit, has perished. From the height he has fallen to the earth. He descended from greatness to a lowly state, and his face and appearance has wasted away. He was burned up by the fire, and he turned into ashes and disappeared. Then you say, Let me make another tomorrow. He will prepare my food for me. He was destroyed, and no power was left in him. His own destruction. Chapter 7. This I say, fire is more valuable in the formation of things, because even the untamable things are subdued in it, and it laughs at those which are destroyed easily by its burning. But neither is it worthy, because it is subject to the water. But water is more worthy than fire, because water overcomes fire and sweetens the earth with fruit. But I would not call water a god either, because water is taken from the earth, and water is subject to the earth. I will not call the earth a goddess either, because it is dried by the sun and was made for man for his work. I think the sun is more worthy among the gods, because with its rays it illuminates the entire universe and all the air. But I will not place the sun among the gods, because there are those who obscure his course. They are the moon and the clouds. I will not call the moon or stars gods, because at times during the night they also dim their light. Listen, Terah, my father, I will seek the God who created all the other gods we have thought exist. I seek who or what it is that made the heavens red and the sun golden, and who has given light to the moon and the stars, and who has dried the earth in the midst of the many waters. I will seek who it is that has set yourself among the things, and who has sought me out in my thoughts of questioning. God will reveal himself by himself to us. Chapter 8. Then I was thinking about my father Terah, being in the court of the house, when the voice of the Mighty One came down from the heavens in a stream of fire, and it called to me, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. Then he said, You are searching in the wisdom of your heart for the God of gods, the Creator. I am He. Get out from Terah your father, and go away from the house, that you too may not be killed because of the sins of your father's house. And as I went out, I was not inside the entrance of the court yet. The sound of a tremendous thunder came and burned him and his house, and everything in his house to the ground for a space of 40 cubits. Chapter 9. Then a voice spoke to me twice, Abraham, Abraham. I said, Here I am. And he said, Look, it is I. Fear not, for I am with you, because I am before the ages. I am the mighty God who created the first light of the world. I am your protection, shield, and your helper. He continued and said, Behold, it is I. Fear not, because I am before the world was. I am mighty, the God who has created all. I am the light of the age. I am your protector and your helper. Go, get me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a pigeon. Go take me a young heifer of 3 years, and a female goat of 3 years, and a ram of 3 years, a turtle dove, and a pigeon, and bring me a pure sacrifice. In this sacrifice I will lay before you the ages to come and tell you what is in store, and you will see great things which you have not seen before. I will tell you things kept guarded, and you will see great things which you have not seen, because you desired me and searched for me, and so I called you my beloved. But for 40 days abstain from every kind of food cooked by fire and from drinking, because you have loved to search me out, and I have named you my friend. And also abstain from anointing yourself with oil for 40 days, and then give me the sacrifice which I have commanded you in a place which I will show you, high on a mountain. And there I will reveal to you the ages which have been created and established by my word. And there I will show you the things which were made in the ages, and by my word that affirmed and created and renewed, I will make known to you what will come to pass for them who have done evil and for those who have done righteousness in the generations of men. Chapter 10. Then I heard a voice telling me such things, and I heard the voice of him who spoke these words to me, and I looked around for him. I found I could not breathe, and fear seized my spirit. My soul seemed to leave me, and I fell down like a stone, like a dead man falls to the earth, and I had no strength to stand. I was laying with my face down to the earth when I heard the voice of the Holy One speaking, Go, Yoel, and by the power of my ineffable name, raise up that man over there, and strengthen him, so that he recovers from his trembling. Consecrate this man for me, and strengthen him against his trembling. The angel he sent to me in the likeness of a man came, and he took me by my right hand and set me up on my feet, and said to me, Stand up, Abraham, friend of God who loves you. Do not let your trembling seize you. For look, I have been sent to you to strengthen you and bless you in the name of God who loves you. He is the creator of the heaven and the earth. Do not fear, but and run to him. I am called Yoel, by him who gives life to those who exist with me on the 7th level of heaven. It is done by the power of the goodness of the ineffable name that is dwelling in me. I am the one who has been given the authority to restrain the threats and attacks of the living one's cherubims against one another, and to teach those who have him within them the song of the 7th hour of the night of man, according to his commandment. I teach those who carry the song through the man's night of the 7th hour. I am the one who ordained your father's house to be burned with him, because he honored the dead gods. I am given authority to restrain the Leviathan, because every attack and menace of every Leviathan/serpent reptile are subject to me. I am he who has been given power to loosen Hades and destroy him who watches over the dead. I have been sent to bless you and your land now, for the Eternal One whom you have invoked has prepared you for. For your sake I have ventured my way upon the earth. Stand up, Abraham, go boldly, be very joyful and rejoice. And I also rejoice with you, because you are venerable, and I am with you. For everlasting honor has been prepared for you by the Eternal One. Go and do the sacrifices commanded, for I, and with me Michael, blesses you forever. I have been commanded to be with you, and with the generations that will spring from you. Be of good cheer and go. Chapter 11. And I stood up and saw him who had grasped me by the right hand and set me on my feet. The appearance of his body was like sapphire, and the look of his appearance was like peridot, and the hair of his head was like snow. A kiddaris, bracket, a Scythian hat with long flaps usually worn by kings, was on his head, and its look was like that of a rainbow. His garments were purple, and a golden staff was in his right hand. And he said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here's your servant. He said, Do not let my appearance frighten you, nor should you let my speech trouble your soul. Come with me, and I will be with you visibly until the sacrifice. But after the sacrifice, I will be invisible forevermore. Be of good cheer and come. Chapter 12. The two of us went together for 40 days and nights, and I ate no bread and drank no water, because my food and my drink was to see the angel who was with me and to hear his voice. We came to the mount of God, Mount Horeb, and I said to the angel, Singer to the Eternal One, I have no sacrifice, and I don't know of a place with an altar on the mountain. How can I bring a sacrifice? And he said to me, Look around. And when I looked around, there following us were all the required animals, the young heifer, the female goat, the ram, the turtle dove, and the pigeon. And the angel said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Slaughter all these animals and divide them into halves. Place the halves against the other, but do not divide the birds. Give these to the men whom I will show you, standing by you, because these are the altar upon the mountain to offer a sacrifice to the Eternal One. But the turtle dove and the pigeon you will give to me, because I will ascend on the wings of the birds to show you what is in the heavens, on the earth, in the sea, in the abyss, in the lower depths, in the Garden of Eden, in its rivers, and in the fullness of the universe. And you will see its circles in all. Chapter 13. I did everything commanded me by the angel, and I gave the angels who had come to us the divided animals. But the angel Yoel took the birds. Then I waited until the evening sacrifice. Then and there an unclean bird flew down upon the carcasses, and I drove it away. The unclean bird spoke to me and said, Abraham, what are you doing upon the holy heights, where no man eats or drinks, and there is no food for man here? But these heavenly beings consume everything with fire and will burn you up. Forsake the man who was with you and run away, because if you ascend into the heights, they will destroy you. Then when I saw the bird speaking, I said to the angel, What is this, my lord? And he said, This ungodliness is Azazel. And he said to it, the bird, Disgrace upon you, Azazel, for Abraham's portion is in heaven, but yours is upon the earth, because you have chosen this for the dwelling place of your uncleanness, and you have loved it. Therefore the eternal mighty one, mighty Lord, forced you to dwell upon the earth. Through you every evil spirit of lies, rage, and trials come forth for the generations of ungodly men. God, the eternal and mighty one, has not permitted the bodies of the righteous to end up in your hands, so that the life of the righteous and the destruction of the unclean may be assured. Listen, you have no permission to tempt the righteous at all. Leave this man. You cannot deceive him, because he is the enemy of you and those who follow you and those who love what you want. Behold, the garment which is heaven was formerly yours has been set aside for him, and the mortality which was his has been given over to you. Chapter 14. And the angel said to me, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And the angel said to me, Know that from now on and forever, the Eternal One has chosen you. Be bold. I command you to use this authority against him who reviles the truth. Will I not be able to revile who has scattered about the earth the secrets of heaven, and who has taken counsel against the mighty one? Say to him, May you stoke, be kindled in the fires of the earth's furnace. Go, Azazel, into the deserted parts of the earth. Your inheritance is over those who are with you, with the stars and with the men born by the clouds, whose reward you are. They exist because of you through your being. Hate is your pious act. Therefore you will destroy yourself and be gone from me. And I spoke the words that the angel taught me. But the angel said to me, "Do not answer him, for God has given him power over those who answer him." And the angel spoke to me, saying, "However much he speaks to you, do not answer him, so that he may not get to you easily. The Eternal One gave him the gravity and the will. Do not answer him." I did what the angel commanded me, and whatever he said to me about the fall, the descent, I did not answer him. Chapter 15. As the sun was setting, I beheld smoke like that of a furnace, and the angels who had divided the portions of the sacrifice came down from the top of the smoking furnace. And the angel lifted me with his right hand and set me upon the right wing of the pigeon, and he sat on the left wing of the turtle dove. Neither birds had been slaughtered. He flew me to the borders of the flaming fire, and we rose on many winds to the heavens, which were above the firmament, the sky, the theater of stars, the sphere where the stars are stationed. In the air, we ascended to a height that I could see a strong, bright light, impossible to describe. In the light of a fiercely burning fire, I saw many people, male in appearance. All of them were constantly changing their appearance and form. They were running as they were being changed, and they were worshiping and crying out with a sound of words that I could not recognize. Chapter 16. And I said to the angel, "Why have you brought me here? I can no longer see clearly, and I am growing weak. My spirit is leaving me." And he said, "Remain close to me and do not fear. He, the one you cannot see, is coming toward us now with a tremendous voice of holiness. He is the Eternal One who loves you, but you yourself cannot look at him. But you may find your spirit growing faint on account of the choirs of those who cry out, because I am with you to strengthen you. Fight against the weakness, for I am here to strengthen you." Chapter 17. While he was still speaking, the fire came toward us, surrounding us. And there was a voice amidst the fire, like a voice of many waters, like the sound of a violent sea. And I wanted to fall down and worship. And the angel knelt down with me and worshiped. However, the surface of the high place where we were standing changed constantly, inclining, rolling high and low. And the angel said, "Worship, Abraham, and sing the song which I now will teach you. Never stop singing it. Sing it continuously from beginning to end." And the song which he taught me to sing had words that were appropriate to the area of heaven we were standing in. Each area, sphere in heaven, has its own song of praise, and only those who live there know how to sing it, and those on earth cannot know it or sing it. They could only know it if they were taught by the messengers of heaven, and the words of that song were a type and meaning. So I bowed down, since there were no solid ground on which to prostrate myself, and I recited the song which he had taught me. And he said, "Recite it without ceasing." And I recited, and he himself recited the song along with me. Eternal, mighty, holy El of unlimited power, self-originated, incorruptible, immaculate, without beginning, having no mother or father, spotless, immortal, self-created, illuminated with your own light, without mother or father, self-begotten, high, radiant, wise, lover of men, favorable, generous, bountiful, jealous over me, patient, most merciful, Eli, eternal, mighty, holy, Shabbat, most glorious, El, Yoel, you are he who my soul has loved, the guardian, eternal, radiant, shining, made of light, voice of thunder. You appear as lightning, all seeing, and receive the prayers of those who honor you, and turn away from the prayers of those who besiege you with their provoking ways. You redeem those who are in the midst of the unrighteous, and those who are confused among the wicked, whom inhabited the world in the corruptible life. You renew the life of the righteous. Before the morning light shines, you make the light shine upon your creation from the light of your face, in order to bring the day on the earth. And in your heavenly dwellings there is inexhaustible light of another kind. It is inexpressible splendor from the lights of your face. Accept my prayer and let it be sweet to you, and also the sacrifice which you yourself made to yourself through me who search for you. Receive me favorably and show to me and teach me and make known to your servant what you have promised. Chapter 18. While I was still reciting the song, the mouth of the fire on the surface rose high in the air, and I heard a voice like a roaring sea, and it was not stopped by even the plethora of fire. And as the fire rose up very high, I saw under the fire a throne of fire, and around it were many eyes watching. They were the all-seeing ones, and they were singing their song. Under the throne were four radiant living ones singing, but they looked as if they were one creature, but each had four faces. This is how they appeared and how they looked to me. Each one had the face of a lion, a man, an ox, and an eagle. And because of their four heads upon their bodies, they had 16 faces. Each one had 3 pairs of wings coming out of their shoulders, their sides, and their hips, with the wings from their shoulders covering their faces, with the wings from their hips covering their feet. The 2 middle wings were spread out as they flew, were erect as if standing up. Then, when they had ended their singing, they looked at one another and threatened one another. Then when the angel who was with me saw that they were threatening each other, he left me and went running to them. He turned the face of each living creature from the face which was opposite it, so that it could not see each other's faces. And he taught them the song of peace which the Eternal One has in himself. And while I stood alone and watched, I saw a chariot with wheels of fire behind the living ones. Each wheel had eyes all around it and was full of eyes. Above the wheels was the throne, which I had seen before. It was covered with fire, and the fire encircled it. An indescribable fire contained a mighty fiery host, and I heard its holy voice like the voice of a man. Chapter 19. And a voice came out to me out of the middle of the fire, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Look at the wide places, areas, expanses, which are under the firmament, sky, and on which you now stand. Notice that no other place, area, has yielded the one for whom you have searched or who has loved you. While he was still talking, the areas opened up. Below me were the heavens, and I saw a fire which was widespread. There was a light which is the storehouse of life. There was the dew that God will use to awaken the dead and the spirits of the righteous, those that had gone on before, and the spirits of those souls who are yet to be born. Judgment and righteousness, peace and blessing, and the innumerable hosts of angels, and the living ones, and the power of the invisible glory sat above the living ones. All of those were in the 7th firmament on which I stood. I looked down on a high mountain on which I stood in the 6th firmament, and there I saw a host of angels of pure spirit without bodies, whose duty was to carry out the commands of the fiery angels who were upon the 7th firmament, as I was standing suspended over them. And I looked down on the 6th firmament, and there was no other powers of any form, only the angels of pure spirit. And I was standing on its elevation, and on this firmament there was nothing in any form, and no other host, but only spiritual angels. And I saw a host of the 7th firmament, and he commanded that the 6th firmament should be removed from my sight. And I saw there on the 5th firmament the stars of the powers of the stars which carry out the commands laid upon them, and the elements of the earth obeyed them. Chapter 20. And the Eternal Mighty One said to me, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Here I am. And he said to me, Look at the stars which are beneath you, and number them for me, and then tell me their number. And I said, How can I? I am just a man made of the dust of the earth. And he said to me, I will make your progeny a nation as large as the number of stars, and as powerful the power of the stars. And I will set these people a portion for me as my own inheritance. They will be distinct from those of Azazel, and yet I include Azazel in my house. And I said, Eternal and Mighty One, let your servant speak before you, and do not let your fury ignite against your chosen one, your chosen elect. Look, before You led me up. Azazel insulted, railed against me. Since he is now not before you, how can you establish yourself with them? Chapter 21. Then he said to me, look beneath your feet at the firmament and understand the creation represented and foretold in this expanse, the creatures who exist in it, and the ages prepared after it. And I looked beneath my feet, and beneath the sixth heaven I saw the earth and its fruits, and what moved upon it, and its beings that moved, and the host of its men, and the ungodliness of some of their souls, and the righteous deeds of other souls. And I saw the lower regions of their torment in the abyss, perdition. And I saw the sea and its islands, its monsters, Leviathan and its fishes, and Leviathan and his lair, his realms, caves, and the world which lay above him, and his movements and the destructions he caused the world. I saw there the streams and the rivers with the waters rising, their winding courses. And I saw there the Garden of Eden and its fruits, the source of the river that issues from it, the trees and their blossoms, and the men who did good deeds. And I saw in it their foods and their restfulness, blessedness. And I saw there a tremendous multitude of men and women and children, half of them on the right side of the door, vision, and half of them on the left side of the door. Chapter 22. And I said, Eternal Mighty One, what is this vision of creation? And he said to me, this is my will for what is in the light, and it was good before my face. After this I gave them a command, and by my word they came into existence. Whatever I had decreed was to exist had already been decided, and all things created, which you see, had stood in front of me before it was created. And I said, Lord, mighty and eternal, who are the people in this vision on this side and on that side? And he said to me, those who are on the left side are all those who existed before and after your day, some destined for judgment and restoration, and others for vengeance and estrangement at the end of the age. Those on the right side of the vision are the people set a section, a portion for me. These are the ones I have prepared to be born of your lineage and to be called my people. Some of these even come from Azazel. Chapter 23. Now look again in the vision and see who it is that seduced Eve and what the fruit of the tree was, and you will know what is to be and how it will be for your progeny among the people at the end of the days of the age. And all that you cannot understand I will make known to you, for you are well pleasing in my sight, and I will tell you of those things which are kept in my heart. Then I looked into the vision, and my eyes looked at the side of the Garden of Eden, and I saw there a man of imposing height, and he was great, powerful, in stature, incomparable in appearance. He was entwined with a woman who looked like his size and stature. They were standing under a tree of the Garden of Eden, and the fruit of this tree was like a bunch of grapes on a vine. Standing behind the tree was one who had the appearance of a serpent, but it had the hands and feet of a man, and it had wings on its shoulders. There were 6 pairs of wings, and so that there were 6 wings on the right shoulder and 6 on the left shoulder. As I continued looking, I saw the man and the woman eating the fruit from the tree, and the serpent was holding the grapes of the tree and feeding them to the 2 I saw embracing each other. And I said, who are these 2 that embrace, and who is this between them, and what is the fruit which they are eating, O mighty eternal one? And he said, this is the world of men, humanity. This one is Adam, man, and the other who is their desire upon the earth is Eve. But he who is between them is the ungodliness of their behavior that is sending them on their way to perdition. It is Azazel. And I said, O eternal mighty one, Why have you given the likes of him, Azazel, the power to destroy mankind and their works upon the earth? And he said to me, I gave him power over them who want to do evil and those whom I have already hated, and they will even come to love him. And I said, Eternal Mighty One, why did you want to bring into existence an evil that men would desire in their hearts, since you are angered at what was chosen by those who do useless, vain things in your light, your presence, your counsel? Chapter 24. He said to me, I am angered by mankind on your account, and on account of those who will be of your family to come, because as you see in the vision, the burden of destiny is placed upon them. And I will tell you what will be and how much will take place in the last days. Now look at everything in this vision. I looked and saw the created beings that had come into existence before me, and I saw Adam and Eve and the cunning adversary who was with them, and the crafty Cain who had been influenced by the adversary to break the law. I saw the murdered Abel and the destruction brought on him that was caused through the lawless one. And I saw there fornication and those who desired it, and its defilement and their jealousness, and the fire of the corruption in the lower depths of the earth. And I saw theft and those who run after it, and the means and ways of their punishment at the judgment of the great court. And I saw naked men with their foreheads against each other, and their disgrace, and the passions which they had for each other, and their retribution, and the shame and harm they worked against one another. And I saw the desire, and in her hand was the head of every kind of lawlessness, and her scorn and contempt and waste was assigned to destruction, perdition. Chapter 25. And then I saw something that looked like an idol, and it was an idol of jealousy. It was carved in the wood like father used to make. Its body was made of glittering bronze that covered the wood. And in front of it, I saw a man who was worshiping the idol. And in front of him, there was an altar. And upon the altar, a boy was killed as a sacrifice in the presence of the altar. And I said to him, what is this idol? And what is this altar? And who are those being sacrificed? And who is the one who performs the sacrifice? And what is the beautiful temple which I see? They are beauty of your glory, like which lies beneath your throne. And he said, Hear, Abraham, this temple which you have seen, the altar and the works, are my idea of the priesthood performing in the name of my glory, where every prayer, request of man will enter and live. They include the praise of kings and prophets and whatever sacrifice I decreed to be made for me. And he said, Abraham, listen. What you see is the temple is a copy of that which is in the heavens. It is glorious in its appearance and beauty. I will give it to the sons of men to ordain a priesthood for the glorious name. In it, the prayers of the men will be spoken and sacrifices offered. I have ordained this for your people, especially those who arise out of your lineage. But the idol which you saw is the image of jealousy that will be set up by some of those who will come out of your own loins in the later days. And the man who sacrifices in murder is he who pollutes my temple. These are witnesses to the final judgment, and their appointment has been set from the beginning of creation. Chapter 26. And I said, Eternal Mighty One, why did you establish it like this, and then proclaim the knowledge of it? And he said to me, Listen, Abraham, and understand what I am about to say to you, and answer my question. Why did your father Terah not listen to you, and why did he not cease his idolatrous practices together with his entire house? And I said, Eternal Mighty One, certainly because he did not want to obey me, because I did not follow his ways, his works. And he said to me, the will of your father is in him, up to him, and the will of your is in you, is up to you, and likewise the counsel of my own will is within me, and it is prepared for the coming days before you have any knowledge of them or can see any future with your own eyes. Now look again in the vision and see how it will be with your children, generations, progeny. Chapter 27. And I looked and saw the vision sway. From its left side, a crowd of unbelievers ran out and they captured the men, women, and children, and they murdered most of them, and others they kept as slaves. And I saw them, the killers, run toward the slaves through 4 doors, which were high with stairs, and they burned the temple with fire. And they took and broke the holy things that were in the temple. And I said, Eternal One, behold, my progeny, whom you have accepted, are robbed by these ungodly men. Some are killed, and others they enslave. The temple they have burned with fire, and the beautiful things in it they have robbed and destroyed. If this is to be, why have you ripped my heart like this? And he said to me, Listen, Abraham, all that you have seen will happen because of your progeny, who will continually provoke me because of the idols that you saw, and because of the human sacrifice in the vision through their drive and desire to do evil and their schemes in the temple. You saw it and how it will be. And I said, Eternal Mighty One, allow these works of evil brought about by ungodlessness pass by, and instead show me those who fulfilled the commandments. Show me the works of righteousness. I know in truth you can do this. And he said to me, The days of the righteous will arrive are seen symbolized by the lives of righteous rulers who will arise, and those and whom I have created to rule at the appointed time. But you must know that out of them will arise those who care only for their own interests. These are symbolized by the killers I have already shown you. Chapter 28. And I answered and said, Mighty Eternal One, you who are holy by your power, show mercy, I pray, since you have brought me up here to your high place, and you have showed your beloved the things about which I asked. Please tell me now, will what I saw be their lot for long? And he showed me a multitude of his people and said to me, Because of them I will be provoked by them through the 4 high doorways you saw, and my retribution for their deeds will be accomplished. But in the 4th descent of 100 years, which is the same as 1 hour of the age, the same as 100 years, there will be evil among the heathen nations. Also, for 1 hour, there will be mercy and honor among those nations. Chapter 29. And I said, Eternal One, how long are the hours of the age? And he said, 12 hours have I ordained for this present ungodly age to rule among the heathen nations and within your progeny, and until the end of the times it will be even as you saw. And now reckon and understand and look again into the vision. And he said, I decree to keep 12 periods of the impious age among the heathen and among your progeny, and what you have seen will be until the end of time. And I looked and saw men going out from the left side of the heathen nations, and there went men and women and children out from the side of the heathen nations like the multitudes, and they worshipped him. And while I still looked, there came many from the right side, and some of these insulted him, and some of them even struck him, but others worshipped him. As I watched, I saw Azazel come up to him, and he kissed him on the face, and then turned and stood behind him. Then I said, Eternal Mighty One, who is this man who is insulted and beaten, who is worshipped by the nations and kissed by Azazel? And he answered and said, Hear me, Abraham. The man you saw insulted and beaten and yet worshipped by many, he is the relief, liberty, freedom granted for by the nations of the people who will be born from out of you in the last days, in the 12th hour of the age of ungodliness, the Savior, Messiah. But in the 12th hour of my last age of my fulfillment will I set up this man from your tribe, whom you saw issue among the people, and all who follow will become like him, like this man, and they will be called by me. They will consider him to be called by me, and they will join the others, even those who desire to change within themselves. Regarding those who emerge from the left side of the vision, the meaning is this: there will be many from the heathen nations who will set their hopes on and trust in him. But those who you saw from your progeny on the right side of the vision, who insulted him and struck him, many will be offended because of him, but some will worship him, and he will test those of your progeny who have worshipped him in the 12th hour at the end, in order to shorten the age of ungodliness. Before the age of the righteous begins to grow, my judgment will come upon the nations, lawless peoples, through the people of your progeny who have been separated to me. And in those days I will bring upon all creatures of the earth 10 plagues, through misfortune and disease, and the groans of their bitter grief. And this will be brought upon the generations of men because of the provocation and the corruption of mankind, because they provoke me. And then the righteous men of your progeny will survive in the number which is kept secret by me, and will hasten the coming of the glory of my name to that place prepared before for those you saw destroyed in the vision. And they will live and be established by the sacrifices of righteousness in the age of the ungodly, and they will rejoice in me continually, and receive those who return to be in repentance, because of their inner torment will be great for those who have wrongfully misused them in this world. And they will see the honor bestowed on those who are mine in the day of glory. Abraham, see what you have seen, and hear what you have heard, and take knowledge of all that you have come to know. Go to your inheritance, for behold, I am with you to the age. Chapter 30. While he was still speaking to me, I found myself on the earth again, and I said, Eternal One, I am no longer in the glory on high. Still, there is one matter which my soul longs to know and understand, that was not revealed to me. And he said to me, I will explain to you the things you desired in your heart to know, which are the 10 plagues that I prepared against the heathen nations, and which have been destined to begin at the passing of the 12th hour of the age of the earth. Hear therefore what I tell you, because it will come to pass. The first is the sorrow and pain of sickness. The second, the massive burning and destruction of many cities. The third, the destruction and pestilence of animals. The fourth, the hunger of the whole world and its people. The fifth, among the rulers, destruction by means of earthquake and the sword. The sixth, the increase of hail and snow. The seventh, wild beasts will be their grave. Animals will kill people. The eighth, hunger and pestilence will change their course of destruction. The ninth, punishment, execution by the sword, and flight and distress. The 10th, thunder and voices and destructive earthquake. Chapter 31. And then I will sound the trumpet in the air, and I will send my elect one, and he will have all measure of my power. He will summon my people who were despised from all nations, and I will send fire upon those who have insulted them and who have ruled over them in this age. And those who have chosen my desire and kept my commandments will rejoice with celebrations over the downfall of the men who continue to follow after the idols. And I will take those who covered me with mockery and give them over to the scorn of the coming age. I have prepared them to be food for the fires of Hades, and in the perpetual flight through the air of the depths of Hades, and they will be the contents of the worm's belly, Azazel. For they joined one to whom they had not been given to, and they abandoned the Lord who gave them strength. Chapter 32. Hear me, Abraham, because you will see that in the 7th generation from you will go out into a strange land, and the heathen will enslave and oppress them, and they will leave the land of their slavery after they have been mistreated for an hour of the age of ungodliness, and the heathen nation whom they will serve I will judge. And the Lord said this too. Have you heard, Abraham, what I have told you, and what your tribe will encounter in the last days? Abraham heard and accepted the words of God in his heart. This concludes the book of the Apocalypse of Abraham. Apocalypse shel Avraham. And Salah and Amen. Praise to the mighty, eternal one, the Ancient of Days, the Father, the blessing, The glory, the power is all his. Amen. Salah. Peace. Shalom.
All right. So that concludes the Apocalypse of Abraham. And it's really not that long. It's only about 51 minutes long. I'm going to leave the link to it right there. So anytime you want to listen to it on your own, you can. Now we're going to get into the Apocalypse of Elijah.
We are reading the Apocalypse of Elijah, edited and translated by Albert Petersma and Susan Turner Comstock with Harold A. Attridge. The word of the Lord addressed me as follows. Say to this people, why do you sin and multiply sin, provoking to anger the Lord God who made you? Do not love the world, nor what is in the world, for the world's pride and its destruction are the devil's. Remember that the Lord who created everything had compassion on you in order that he might rescue us from the captivity of this age. For often the devil has desired to prevent the sun from rising over the earth and to prevent the earth from giving produce, wishing to devour men like fire racing through straw, wishing to swallow them up like water. And because of this, the glorious God had compassion on us. He would send his son to the world in order that he might rescue us from the captivity. For he did not inform angel nor archangel when he came to us, but he changed himself into a man. When he came to us in order that he might rescue us from the flesh, and that you might indeed become his children and he your father. Remember that he has prepared for you thrones and crowns in heaven. For everyone who will obey his voice will receive thrones and crowns. As for those who are mine, says the Lord, I will write my name upon their forehead and set a seal on their right hand. They will be neither hungry nor thirsty, nor will the lawless one prevail over them, nor will the powers any longer hinder them, but they will walk with the angels to my city. Sinners, however, will not outstrip the powers, but the powers of death will seize them and have dominion over them because the angels do not obey them, and they have made themselves strangers to his dwelling places. Hear now, you wise of the earth, concerning the deceivers who will multiply at the end time, because they will adopt teachings which are not God's. They will set aside God's law. People whose God is their own belly, who say, fasting has no validity, nor did God institute it. Thereby they estrange themselves from God's covenant and deprive themselves of precious promises. They are at no time rooted in firm faith. Do not let those people deceive you. Remember that the Lord instituted fasting from his creation of the heavens as a benefit to mankind on account of the passions and the changing lust which oppose you, so that the evil one would not deceive you. But holy fasting is what he has instituted. The Lord says, he who fasts will never sin, even though there be in him envy and quarrelsomeness. But let him who is holy fast. He who fasts, however, without being holy, angers the Lord as well as the angels, and he harms his own soul. Furthermore, he accumulates against himself wrath for the day of wrath. Holy fasting is what the Lord instituted with pure intent and holy hands. For holy fasting forgives sin, heals diseases, casts out demons, exerts powers upon the throne of God as an ornament, as a fragrance, as a remission of sin through holy prayer. For who among you would go out to the field, take pride in his skill, but fail to take a tool in his hand? Or who would go to war without being equipped with armor? If he be discovered, will he not be killed because he disregarded his duty toward the king? In the same way, it is impossible for anyone to enter the holy place in a state of doubt. He who doubts in prayer is darkness to himself, and the angels do not obey him. If, however, you are always single-minded in the Lord, be wise to the times, in order that you may discern all things regarding the kings of the Assyrians and the destruction of heaven and earth. Those who belong to me will not be overpowered, says the Lord, nor will they be afraid in battle. And when they see a king who has arisen in the north, they will name him the king of the Assyrians and the unrighteous king. He will increase his wars and disturbances against Egypt. The land will groan with one accord. Your children will be seized. Many will long for death at that time. Then a king will arise in the west, whom they will name the King of Peace. He will run on the sea like a roaring lion. He will kill the unrighteous king. Vengeance will be taken on Egypt by war, and there will be much bloodshed. At that time, he will decree peace throughout Egypt and a worthless gift. He will grant peace to the saints. He will undertake to say, the name of God is one. He will bestow honor on the priests of God. He will exalt the holy places. He will give worthless gifts to God's house. He will circulate among the cities of Egypt by deceit. Without their knowledge, he will enumerate the holy places. He will weigh the heathen idols. He will count their wrath. He will appoint priests for them. He will command that the wise men of the land be seized along with the eminent ones of the people, and that they be taken to a metropolis by the sea, saying, there is but one language. But when you hear, peace and joy exist. For here is his sign. I will tell them to you in order that you may recognize him. For he has two sons, one on his right and one on his left. Now, the one on the right will assume a diabolical appearance. He will abandon the name of God. For 4 kings come from that king. And in his 13th year, when he comes to Memphis, he will construct a temple in Memphis at that time. His own son will rebel against him and kill him. The whole land will tremble. At that time, he will issue a decree throughout the entire land that the priests of the land be seized along with all the saints, saying, every gift which my father gave you and all the benefits you shall return twofold. He will close the holy places. He will seize their homes. He will take their sons into captivity. He will command that they perform sacrifices, abominations, and galling acts upon the land. He will appear beneath the sun and the moon at that time. As for the priests of the land, they will tear their garments. Woe to you at that time, rulers of Egypt, because your day has passed. The violence of the poor will turn against you, and they will seize your sons as plunder. The cities of Egypt will groan at that time, and no more will be heard the voice of buyer and seller in the markets of the cities of Egypt. They will collect dust. The inhabitants of Egypt will weep with one accord. They will desire death, but death will flee from them. They will climb onto rocks and jump down on them and say, fall on us. And they will not die, but death runs away from them. While double affliction against increases throughout the whole land at that time, the king will command that every nursing woman be seized and be brought to him in fetters, and that they suckle dragons, and that their blood be sucked from their breasts and made poisonous. Because of the stresses of wars which will take place, he will command that every boy 12 years and under be seized and be taught to shoot arrows. The midwife and the land will mourn them, and she who has given birth will look heavenward and say, why did I sit on the birth stool to bring a child into the world? The barren one and the virgin will rejoice and say, it is time for us to rejoice, because we have no children on earth. Rather, our children are in heaven. At that time, 3 kings will arise in Persia, who will capture the Jews who are in Egypt and bring them to Jerusalem and settle it with them once again. Then, if you should hear that there is dissension and no security in Jerusalem, rend your garments, you priests of the land, because the destroyer will not be long in coming. Straightway, the lawless one will make his appearance in the holy places at that time. The Persian kings will withdraw at that time. With the kings of the Assyrians, the 4 kings will do battle with 3. They will spend 3 years there until they have removed the wealth in that place. Blood will flow from Cus to Memphis. The river of Egypt will turn into blood so that no one can drink from it for 3 days. Woe to Egypt and to those in Egypt. At that time, a king will arise in the city which is called the city of the sun. At that time, the whole land will tremble. He will hasten to Memphis in the 6th year of the kings of Persians. He will lay an ambush in Memphis. He will kill the Assyrian kings. The Persians will take vengeance on the land. He will command that all the heathen and lawless be killed. He will command that the pagan temples be plundered and their priests be annihilated. He will command that the holy places of the saints be rebuilt. He will give double gifts to the house of God. He will say, the name of God is one. The whole land will worship the Persian, and the remnant which did not die under the blows will say, a righteous king it is whom the Lord has sent us, that the land might not be devastated. He will command that no king be given them for 3 years and 6 months. The land will be full of prosperity and great plenty. The living will go to meet the dead and say, rise up and remain with us in this state of bliss. In the 4th year of that king, there will appear one who says, I am the Christ, but he is not. Do not believe him. But when the Christ comes, he comes in a manner of a beast of doves with his crown and doves encircling him. And he walks on the vaults of heaven with the sign of the crown preceding him, while the whole earth sees him like the sun which shines from the west. This is the way in which the Christ comes, with all his angels surrounding him. The lawless one, however, will proceed to take his stand in the holy place. He will say to the sun, fall, and it falls. Be dark, and it complies. Shine, and it does. He will accompany them through the sky and say, walk upon the sea and upon the rivers as though they were dry land. He will make the lame walk. He will make the deaf hear. He will make the dumb speak. He will make the blind see. Lepers will he heal. The sick he will cure. The demon-possessed he will exorcise. He will multiply his signs and wonders in everyone's presence. He will do the things which the Christ did, with the sole exception of raising the dead. By this you will know that he is the lawless one. He has no power to give souls. Now his signs I will tell you in order that you may recognize him. He is a little pellet, tall, thin-legged, with a tuft of gray hair on his forehead like one who is bald. His eyelids extend to his ears. He has leprosy on his hands. He will will change himself before you. At one time, he will be an old man. At another, he will be a young child. He will change himself with every sign. But the aspect of his head he will not be able to change. By this you will know that he is the lawless one. The young woman whose name is Tabitha will hear that the shameless one has made his appearance in the holy places. She will dress in her linen clothes and hurry to Judea to reprove him as far as Jerusalem and say to him, O you shameless one, O you lawless one, you enemy of all the saints. Then the shameless one will become angry with the woman. He will pursue her to the region of the setting of the sun. He will suck her blood in the evening and toss her unto the temple, and she will become salvation for the people. At dawn, she will rise up alive and rebuke him, saying, You shameless one, you have no power over my soul, nor over my body, because I live in the Lord always. And even my blood, which you spilled on the temple, became salvation for the people. Then, when Elijah and Enoch hear that the shameless one has appeared in the holy places, they will come down and wage war against him, saying, Are you not ashamed, seeing that you are estranged constantly? You become an enemy of heavenly beings. Now you have acted against those on earth as well. You became an enemy of angels and powers. You are an enemy for all time. You fell from heaven like the morning stars. You have changed. Your substance has been darkened. You are not now ashamed. You who hurl yourself against God, you are the devil. The shameless one will hear, become angry, and wage war against them in the marketplace of the great city. He will spend 7 days fighting with them and kill them. For 3.5 days they will lie dead in the marketplace in full view of all the people. But on the fourth day they will arise again and rebuke him, saying to him, O you shameless one, are you not ashamed, you who deceives God's people, for whom you have not suffered? Do you not know that we live in the Lord in order that we may rebuke you whenever you say, I have overpowered them? They will lay aside the flesh of his body and kill you without your being able to utter a sound at that time, because we live in the Lord always, whereas you are a perpetual enemy. The shameless one will listen in anger and wage war against them. The whole city will surround them. At that time, they will raise cities of joy towards heaven, shining forth as the whole world watches them. The lawless one will not prevail against them. He will become angry with the land and try to sin against the people. He will command that their eyes be burnt out with an iron rod. He will tear off their nails one by one. He will command that vinegar and lye be poured into their nostrils. And those who are unable to endure the king's tortures will take their gold and flee by the ferry, saying, Ferry us across to the desert. They will pass away like one asleep, as the Lord takes himself their spirits and their souls. Their flesh will be like ham. No wild animal will eat them until the final day of the great judgment. They will rise and receive a place of rest, but they will not be part of the kingdom of Christ like those who endured. But as for those who endured, says the Lord, I will direct them to sit on my right. They will be victorious over the lawless one. They will see the destruction of heaven and earth. They will receive the thrones of glory and the crowns. 60 righteous ones, prepared for that moment, will hear at that time. They will don the armor of God. They will hasten to Jerusalem in their battles with the shameless one, saying, Every feat which the prophets performed, you have performed. But you were in truth unable to raise a dead person because you lacked the power. By this did we recognize you as the lawless one. The shameless one will hear, become angry, and command that the righteous be bound, be placed on altars, and be burnt. At that time, they will win the affection of many. They will leave him, saying, "This one is not the Christ, for the Christ will not kill righteous people, nor does he pursue them. He will not try to convince them by signs and wonders." At that time, the Christ will have compassion on those who are his. He will send his angels from heaven, 64,000 in number, each having 6 wings. Their voices will move heaven and earth. When they praise and give glory, those whose forehead is written the name of the Christ, upon whose right hand is the seal, both small and great, they will be taken on their wings and removed from the wrath. Then Gabriel and Uriel will be a column of light and go before them until they bring them to the Holy Land, and they will permit them to eat from the tree of life and to wear white garments. When the angels keep watch over them, they will neither hunger nor thirst, nor will the lawless one have power over them. And at that time, the whole earth will tremble. The sun will be darkened. Peace will be removed from upon the earth and from under heaven. The trees will be uprooted and topple. Wild animals and domestic animals will die in confusion. Birds will fall on the ground dead, and the waters of the sea will evaporate. The sinners will cry out on the earth, saying, "What have you done to us, lawless one?" By saying, "I am the Christ," when you are the lawless one, and you have no power to save yourself, much less to save us. You perform vain marvels before us until you had made us strangers to the Christ who created each one of us. Woe to us, because we listen to you. See, we are about to die in an evil manner and in affliction. Where now is the footprint of a righteous person, that we should worship you? Or where is our teacher, that we might appeal to him? Now we will be destroyed by wrath, because we disobeyed God. We went to the depths of the sea, but found no water. We dug in the riverbed 16 cubits, but failed to find water. Then the shameless one will weep at that time, saying, "Woe is me as well, because my time has passed." I said, "My time shall not pass away. My years have become months. My days have passed like dust that pass by. Indeed, now I shall perish with you. Now then hasten to the desert. Seize the brigands and kill them. Fetch the saints, for on their account does the earth give produce. For on their account does the sun shine upon the earth. For on their account does the dew settle on the ground. The sinners will weep. You have made us enemies of God. If you have the power, arise and pursue them." Then he will spread his fiery wings and fly away in pursuit of the saints. He will again wage war on them. The angels will hear and come down and wage war against him, a war of many swords. At that time, the Lord will hear and command great anger, that heaven and earth spew forth fire. And the fire will reach out over the earth 72 cubits. It will consume the sinners and the devils like straw. A just judgment will take place at that time. The mountains of the earth will make their voices heard, and that time the roads will say to each other, "Did you hear today the sound of a man who makes his way to the judgment of the Son of God?" The sins of each will oppose him in the place where they were committed, whether by day or by night. The just and the will see the sinners and their punishment, as well as those who persecuted them and those who delivered them to death. Then the sinners will see the abode of the righteous and the manner in which grace will ensue. At that time, that which the righteous will often request will be given to them. At that time, the Lord will judge heaven and earth. He will judge those who have transgressed in heaven and those who have done so on earth. He will judge the shepherds of the people. He will ask them concerning the flock, and they will hand them over to him without deadly guile. After that, Elijah and Enoch descend. They lay aside the flesh of the world and put on the flesh of the Spirit. They pursue the lawless one and kill him without his being able to utter a sound. At that time, he will melt before them like ice, which melts through fire. He will perish like a dragon, which is without breath. He will be told, "Your time is up. Now you will perish with those who believed in you." They will be thrown into the deep pit, and it will be shut over them. At that time, the Christ comes from heaven, the kings together with all the saints. He burns the earth and spends 1,000 years on it, because the sinners held sway over them. He will create a new heaven and a new earth. No devil or death exists in them. With the saints, he will rule, descending and ascending. They will be with the angel always. They will be with the Christ 1,000 years. We have read the Apocalypse of Elijah. Kingdom of Heaven is at hand, ministers.
A good book. That was actually in the audio. I didn't realize it had so many breaks and starts in it, but it was read by a brother, so I thought I would play it. But those books are about the end. So here is the link to the Apocalypse of Elijah. So all I know is judgment is definitely coming on America. And all you need to do is just hold on and stay on the path with the Most High. That's all we can do. We're not going to make this thing go by any faster. So, oh well. Yeah, it was still very enjoyable and a lot of good information in there. So, it's nice because as you can see, Abraham and Elijah both got visions on what it was going to be like at the end. And we're almost there, y'all. I know we say it all the time. Yes, I did see that, August Dreams. Yeah, there is another synagogue shooting in San Diego. And the last time I looked, they said 4 injured. I didn't hear anything about deaths. Oh, well, hey, judgment is on all of them right now. And you can clearly see it. But thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll definitely come together and do this again next week. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, family. Peace.